Hey everybody, welcome into the Shelby County High School Football Show alongside Andrew Simonson. I'm Alec Etheridge of the Shelby County Reporter, and we get a break from region play this week, but that doesn't mean it's not an exciting week, Andrew, as we've got several big games on tap, and I kind of look forward to this non-region week every season just because, one, it's kind of that chance for teams to get everything right that they need to get right moving forward into the next stretch of region play as they look after this really to start chasing down those playoff spots and the region championship. So when you look at this week's slate of games, one, we've still got a couple of undefeated teams out there, 4 total, 2 in the AHSA, 2 outside of that with Evangeline Cornerstone in the AISA and ACSC as well. So 4 undefeated teams going into this non-region week. We've got several teams still battling for region title, so a lot still to play for. Every team technically still in the playoff hunt, several still in the hunt for a region championship. So when you look at this non-region week, Andrew, what is it that you're looking forward to the most?
I'm most looking forward to seeing all the different fun matchups that we get from being outside of region play as well. You get a lot of unique matchups from across the state. You get a lot of Birmingham metro area matchups as well. And you just get to see a lot of matchups that you don't normally get to see within region play, but they still help prepare you just the same for playoff time, and that's what I think that I'm most looking forward to as well, is just seeing how these teams start to click together as the playoff hunt approaches.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've got several county matchups. Again, it's like the running theme this year as we get several this week, and we've got a Thursday night game that's going to take place right here on this field, nationally televised, ESPN2 against Clay-Chalkville. And these are 2 of the best teams in the state regardless of classification. Then we've got Oak Mountain, Briarwood. We've got Pelham, Chelsea. You got Helena looking to stay unbeaten on homecoming night as well. So just a ton to look forward to this week. No region games, but I don't think it's going to matter. You're going to have a lot of excitement in several of these matchups. But this one right here, one that we're obviously looking forward to and both hope to be at on Thursday night, our game of the week against Clay-Chalkville. The Thompson Warriors going to host the Cougars in a huge nationally televised game. Number 2 in the 6A classification, number 1 in the 7A classification. And the Thompson Warriors and Clay-Chalkville meet here on Thursday night. We're going to start with that one. We're going to give you some quick hits on each game, our prediction for each game this week, but we're going to start right here at Thompson High School as the Thompson Warriors welcome Clay-Chalkville in a big nationally televised game. Well, Thompson's no stranger to the national spotlight. This is a team that seemingly every year the last several years has played a nationally televised game on some form of the ESPN platforms, but this is going to be a challenging game against Clay-Chalkville. Many people across the state think that this is the premier matchup of teams across all classifications, the top 2 teams in the state. You could argue Saraland there in the 6A classification as well, one of those teams. So this is going to be an important one for both of these teams, and even though it's not a region game, Andrew, it's a game that both of these teams desperately want, one that went down to the wire last year, a 17-14 game that went the way of Thompson. So they're meeting again, second year in a row, and this is going to be an interesting battle. I don't know what you're looking forward to most, but just seeing all these athletes out on the field at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest storyline, is just the number of top quality recruits that we're going to see in one place. One of the many reasons that ESPN selected this game also being this game was a barn burner last year. Very close, very tightly played game, and one of the best games of the season. So the chance to see it being run back on the same field a year later under the national spotlight, it's really exciting, and you can't really get much better than this. But as for both of these teams, I'm really looking forward to seeing both of these quarterbacks come into their own on the national spotlight. Jalen Mbakwe has been an absolute star for Clay this year. Transitioning over to the quarterback position, we knew how gifted of an athlete he was. I don't think many of us expected him to be the quarterback that he's become for the Cougars. And looking over at Thompson's side, starting to see Trent Seaburn really settle into his role as a great quarterback for Thompson as well, settling into that number one role that he hasn't always had with the Warriors. So I'm really excited for both of those positions, but I'm really excited to see these defenses go at it. I think that that's really the storyline behind all of this, is Clay has been absolutely dominant on the defensive front, and Thompson coming off of a lot of really strong performances so far, haven't allowed more than 2 touchdowns all season, and I think that in order to walk away with the victory here, they're going to have to do exactly the same here against Clay-Chalkville.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the two defenses, both giving up less than 8 points per game. Thompson giving up 7.5 points per game right now in the season. Well, Clay even better than that. They're giving up 4.8 points per game so far this season. So you look at this, last year 17-14 game, this year 2 solid defenses. I would imagine you're going to see something that's around 21 or less points from both of these teams in this matchup. The Warriors enter with a ton of confidence off a 45-0 shutout win against Chelsea last week, and they didn't really have to do much on the offensive side of the ball. They had 2 pick sixes in that game defensively. Quarterbacks combined for about 10 throws total between the 3 of them in that game. And Seaburn, who you mentioned a minute ago, only threw the ball 2 times in that game. So are they going to be ready to go from a passing standpoint? But this team's so balanced. This offense so balanced. They're prepared for a defense like this. They're working on a ton of stuff throughout the week. So, Andrew, when you look at the game as far as what to expect when they meet, we know the defenses are going to play well. They're going to have a strong night. Which of the quarterbacks, which of the offenses is able to get it going enough to pick up a win in this game?
I think that Thompson has the edge very, very closely. I really enjoy watching Thompson's complete offense behind the running backs, Michael Dujon, AJ Green, as well as all the weapons that they have at receiver, Deuce Oliver, Colby Hearn. The list goes on. And this might be the most complete and loaded that we've seen Thompson in quite some time. And even though that Clay looks every bit like the team that they were last year, this Thompson team looks even better, and I think that gives them the edge going into this matchup in a Thompson win.
Yeah, and I think I've been so impressed by the defense. First off, Caleb Harris, one of those guys that's just making play after play. He might be the best defender I've seen in the state this year, a guy that can make so many disrupting plays, interceptions, big tackles. He's going to be key along with other defenders there. It's just such a good defense that's very sound, and they've got athletic playmakers across the board. But offensively, we really haven't seen them have to do a ton so far this season, but to this point in the year, this year, this offense is more dynamic than it was a year ago. And I think that's a huge key in this matchup. Seaburn's further along. They know he's kind of the guy, but Sims can come in as well. Zach Sims can come in and make big-time plays with his legs. But if you expect him to just do that, he could burn you with a big pass as well. But the weapons that they have on that offensive side of the football, so balanced at every position. Ultimately, I think that that's going to be the difference maker in this game. While the defense is going to get all the attention, Thompson's got more potential offensively this year with weapons than they did a season ago at receiver, at running back. Everything should be in good shape at this point in the season. Now, they are going to face a tough defense in Clay-Chalkville, and this is going to be a tough physical matchup. So you got to have it clicking and rolling in a game like this. But at the end of the day, they should be the one that comes out victorious if they play up to their standard and what they're capable of with the talent they have. But it's sure to be fireworks, nationally televised game right here at Warrior Stadium, something we've become accustomed to seeing the last few years. It's going to be a lot of fun out here when these two hit the field on Thursday night, a short week to prepare, and these teams are going to be ready to go, looking to pick up a non-region win. Winner of this one really cements themselves as a strong contender for either a 6A state championship or a 7A state championship. So make sure you're tuned in. We'll see you all here Thursday night at Warrior Stadium for this big showdown. We have a big county showdown between Briarwood and Oak Mountain going to take place at Oak Mountain High School this Friday night. You look at this game, Andrew, and these two teams entering with different mindsets right now. Oak Mountain coming off of a very difficult, heartbreaking loss as they almost came back against Tuscaloosa County, but ultimately fell short, went for 2 late in that game with a minute left, trailed by 14 with just a couple minutes left, and almost came back. Didn't get the 2-point conversion. Briarwood, on the other hand, they're rolling right now, and they're coming off a bye week following two consecutive wins early in the season. So you look at this Briarwood team starting to gain some momentum, some confidence after a little bit of a slow start on the offensive side, seem to be getting it rolling there. When you look at this matchup and where these two teams sit, what are your thoughts on this game, and who do you expect to come out on top?
Well, it's like you said, these two teams are trying to get moving from where their seasons are going in opposite directions. Oak Mountain obviously them and their fans feel like they probably should have won those last two games. Obviously, with special teams not swinging their way against Chelsea, and then the comeback not quite being complete against Tuscaloosa County. So expect them to come in motivated, even more motivated than they could be for a big regional matchup in the Birmingham region against the team that's just down the road in Briarwood Christian. And I've been really impressed by both of these quarterbacks so far, and I really do think that they engineer what both offenses are trying to do here. We've seen Josh Thompson really starting to come into his own as a dual threat quarterback, and then Will Odell just being an outstanding running quarterback as well. Both of them are key to what their teams are trying to do on offense, and even though both quarterbacks have a great amount of weapons around them, it all starts that position.
Yeah, I think that, you look at this game, and I agree. You see Briarwood starting to grow offensively at the right time of the year. This week, I think they're going to continue to improve, whereas Oak Mountain, you've kind of seen what they can do. And Will Odell's a guy that can make some big-time plays. They just haven't had that game-changing moment the last couple of weeks that's been able to get them over the top. So, Andrew, what's your prediction for this one? Do you think that the Eagles can get over the hump there and get a tight win in what's sure to be a physical contest, or do you think Briarwood continues to take that next step?
So I've actually gone back and forth on this pick so far just because I think that this matchup is going to be very, very close and closely contested at every single position. But I think that Briarwood just has the edge simply because their defense has been able to absolutely adapt and shut down teams like Pelham, Chilton County, and I think that Oak Mountain could be the next victim here as well. I think that Briarwood just really has the weapons in the front four. Luke Dickinson, Max Luster, Andrew Kassouf, Garrett Witherington, as well as Brooks Travis and Brooks Allred back there as well. I've seen every single one of those guys make incredible plays. In that Pelham game a couple weeks ago, I think that they could really cause some havoc for Oak Mountain and make it difficult enough that Briarwood's offense is able to get a couple key drives going, and that makes the difference in this game for a Briarwood win.
Yeah, I think Briarwood going to win this game as well. I think Will Odell gives Oak Mountain a chance. I think it's going to be a very close football game, but that Briarwood defense is back to playing Briarwood football this season. To me, that's a key factor. I think they're going to be honed in on Odell in the running game and stopping this Oak Mountain run in general. And outside of that, I do think that Josh Thompson, I think that offense is starting to get those players stepping up. Sawyer Click at receiver. This is a team that's grown offensively, can do a lot of different things. I think we're going to continue to see them take those next steps on the offensive side of the football while the defense is back to playing to that standard that we expect. I think that makes the difference. I expect Briarwood to walk away with a win. It's homecoming week for the Pelham Panthers, going to play host to the Chelsea Hornets, a county battle between those two teams, and both entering off difficult losses. The Hornets, we see them last week lose 45-0 against Thompson right here. It was homecoming for the Warriors. They win that one in a 45-0 shutout, and Chelsea struggled to stop the run in that game and struggled in different facets of the offense as well. Emerson Russell kind of been the focal point for them so far this season, Andrew. The benefit for them is Pelham just struggled with something similar as Jordan Washington had a huge night for the Helena Huskies, goes off for 305 yards, 4 touchdowns. They pick up a win against Pelham last week, so Pelham struggled to stop the run. Chelsea's defense been struggling a little bit in the same area. Both these offenses love to run the football, so something's got to give in this one. One of them's going to have a more successful night. Andrew, when you look at this game, what is the key? Who's going to be able to walk away victorious from a standpoint of the defense steps up to stop the run game and their run game ends up having success?
Definitely. I think that Pelham's defense is going to have a bounce-back night against Chelsea as well. With Helena, you obviously have to account for the passing as well with Carson Acker and the weapons that he has at receiver in Torrey Ward and Hunter Hale. Chelsea a little bit more one-dimensional with the run. Obviously, we know what Emerson Russell can do both as a running back and as a pass catcher for Carter Dotson as well. But they rely on him a lot more heavily than a lot of other teams do. Even though he is obviously one of the top talents in the county at running back, Chelsea relies on him very heavily, so it's very easy to read off of the film. So I think that Pelham is going to come in very well prepared to tackle that, and I don't expect them to have 2 down weeks in a row on that front as well. As for the offensive side, I think that Pelham being a little more diverse with that passing game as well, being able to use the run not just to exclusively score points, but to also set up the explosive passing play, use a lot more of Clayton Maines' skill set. I think that that's really the key and what separates these two teams this week and why I'm going with the Pelham victory.
Yeah, I mean, you look across football, typically the most important position is quarterback, and Clayton Maines has shown us, even in the losses the last 2 weeks to open region play, tight games for long enough that Pelham was in those two football games, and Clayton Maines was a big reason why. He can throw the football, he can run the football, and I think that dynamic, being able to have that extra thing that the defense has to prepare for, is going to make the difference in this game. Chelsea, just a little bit at this point in the season, they've had some flashes of success in the passing game, but not quite enough to where we feel confident that, honestly, Pelham doesn't have to come out there and just be prepared to focus on the run. Make them beat you deep in the passing game to win that football game. And I think that's going to be the mindset ultimately for Pelham, whereas the Panthers on the offensive side have a little bit more balance. I think Clayton Maines, at the end of the day, going to be the difference maker there at the quarterback position as Pelham walks away with a win. Jordan Washington did it all last week on the offensive side of the football for the Helena Huskies as they pick up a 35-14 road rivalry win in region play against the Pelham Panthers. And, I mean, it was just clicking. Defense played well. Washington played well. They didn't have to even use Carson Acker that much at the quarterback position or Hunter Hell or Torrey Ward out wide. This team was just so focused and heavy on the run game in that one, and it worked out for them in that win. Now they hit the road for the second week in a row, back at home after hitting the road last week to take on Jackson-Olin homecoming game. And this is a Helena team, when you look at them right now, everything seems to be clicking, but they're one of two undefeated teams in the HSAA that we have left, the other being the Thompson Warriors, who have won the last 4 state championships and sit at number 1 in the 7A classification. So this is a team that is playing some good football, balanced offensively, strong defensively, and now taking on a Jackson-Olin team that lost to Pelham 21-6 earlier this season, a team that Helena really just had its way with. So you look at that, you got to feel good about the Huskies going into this game.
Definitely, and Jackson-Olin also coming off of a big-time loss last week as well. As Helena, you have to absolutely be licking your lips at this opportunity as well. Obviously, Helena is going to want to use the run to success like they did last week, but if you talk to Coach Ricky Busby, he's looking for opportunities to use the passing game more in ways, as well as use Jeremy Spratling, so that he doesn't have to put as much weight on Jordan Washington's shoulders, and that's going to be the key in the stretch run as well. We saw him not be able to finish out the year last year, and we know how crucial that depth is going to be come playoff time as well. So I would expect Helena to present a more balanced, diverse offense this game, just to kind of take some of the load off of Jordan Washington as they look ahead to what should be a very competitive region in their schedule throughout the rest of the season, and also keeping one eye on the playoffs as well. They know that it's going to need to be a week-to-week thing. They don't want to finish out like they did last year, but they've got to feel comfortable coming into this game against Jackson-Olin. So that's why I pick a Helena win.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that. You don't want to get too comfortable. You don't want to get set. Last year they played great earlier in the season and then faltered late, missed the playoffs. You don't want that to happen this year, and this is the kind of week with what's coming up the week after this, a game against Briarwood, the two teams still undefeated in region play. That's going to be a big one. So you don't want to, 1, get caught looking ahead, but 2, you want to keep that week-by-week focus for this team. Don't want to get them to get too much in their heads, get too confident, too cocky, because that can be what costs you in a game that you should win. And this is a game that Helena should win. So if they come out focused this week throughout practice, don't linger too much on that win against Pelham. That's what all the great teams do. They shift that focus quickly. I mean, it should be a cakewalk for Helena. It's just a matter of keeping that focus going. But they're taking on a Jackson-Olin team that's just not scoring points right now. This Helena defense should be able to put together a shutout. Combine that with what we've seen from Jordan Washington. Expect this team to be able to pull away, pick up a homecoming win against Jackson-Olin. The Shelby County Wildcats going to get a very challenging game this week as they hit the road to take on the Moody Blue Devils, coached by a former coach here in Jake Gaines here at Thompson, now at Moody, and he's turned that team into one of the top 10 teams in the state in the 5A classification. A very good football team there at Moody. If you're Shelby County, it's going to be a difficult matchup. But when you look at the Wildcats last time out, they win a football game. now sitting at 1-3 overall on the season. So you got a little bit of confidence. You got a bye week coming into this game. Everything lines up for them to have their best chance at success. The question is, can they actually do that, Andrew, going up against arguably one of the top teams in the 5A classification this year?
Yeah, and Moody's going to be one of the favorites to get to Tuscaloosa in the Super 7 this year. There's no doubt about that, just because of what we've seen from them so far this year. Only loss being to Bishop McNamara, a national powerhouse out of Maryland. This is a really good Moody team, and Shelby County, you've got to feel good about yourselves coming in after a win and a bye week. This is probably the best situation that you could be coming in, especially since you answered a lot of questions for the offense the week prior to the bye week as well. But Moody's just on a different level from Jemison, and it's going to be incredibly difficult for them to score points, keep Moody off of the board, and just overall compete with this Blue Devils team. I'm picking a Moody win, but that shouldn't discourage Shelby County and the progress that they've made so far. They can still continue to get some work going within region play as well. That's the thing about these non-region matchups. You can almost use them as scrimmages, really. Test yourself against some top teams, learn a lot more about yourself, and take that into the rest of region play.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that Shelby County is going to have to do, because Moody's a great football team. They're going to win this game. They should win this game going away like they did a season ago in Columbiana, this time on their home field. But the Wildcats are struggling too much offensively. They start to get a little bit of confidence last time out, but there's just not been enough consistency there. When you look at a Moody defense is giving up 13 points per game, well, Shelby County's scoring about 15 points per game. So it's just going to take too much work for them to be able to overcome that struggle that they've had going up against what Moody does the best, which is defend in general, but their home field as well. So when you look at that, you got to expect that Moody's going to be able to take care of business, pick up a win against Shelby County. Big key for Shelby County, though, like you said, use this as an opportunity to get better. Playoffs not out of reach yet. This is a region where the playoffs are very attainable. If they can get some confidence, figure out some things here off of their bye week in this week's game, going into the last leg of region play, this is a team that could still have a chance to make the postseason. Well, Andrew, you talked about it last week. You said that this matchup for Montevallo against West Blockton is always a challenging game. And sure enough, yet again, a game that we felt like Montevallo probably should have won by a couple of scores, ends up being a tight game, and they end up losing 10-7 to West Blockton. And now they enter a non-region matchup at home. Second week in a row they're at home. And that was their home opener last week. And I think that's probably the most disappointing part about it is you go 3-0 on the road, then you come home and you lose by 3 points in a game you probably feel like you should have won. So now back at home, second week in a row against a Jemison team that they probably should beat again. You know, what does this team need to improve on from last week? And not only that, but moving forward, if they want a chance not only to beat Jemison, but to make the playoffs this year and get back where we think this team's capable of.
I feel like there's honestly a chance where that West Blockton game is just kind of an anomaly within the schedule. We've seen within the past few years, like we mentioned last week, all been one-score games and really just been kind of atypical of how a Montevallo game should really go. Just a very close rivalry game that you can kind of throw logic out the window for. Jemison, obviously, they share a common opponent in Shelby County. Shelby County was really able to have their way on offense with them, and this is a team that Montevallo was able to handle pretty well in their opener as well. Still a close game, but one that they were able to pull away from on offense and hold tight on defense as well, especially with that last-second stop as well. I just really think that Montevallo has the edge, so I really want to look for how they're going to bounce back after that loss. This is still a team that's going to position themselves really well for the postseason. It's just all going to be how they use this game to propel themselves forward into a really difficult home stretch of region play with Bibb County and ACA still lurking.
Yeah, I think that's the scary part is that they still have that difficult stretch of region play left. I do think still a 3 or 4 seed in this region, but going to have to win their games that aren't Bibb County and American Christian Academy. So big stretch ahead. Need to get some confidence against Jemison this week. This is a Jemison team that you look at and has really struggled to score points this year. 13.8 points per game on the offensive side of the football. They've lost 3 straight. Montevallo, a defense that's giving up 12.3 points per game. That tells me all I need to know. This is a Montevallo defense that should come out, have a strong performance, be able to score enough points against a Jemison team that's really struggled defensively as well. But ultimately, Montevallo, the disappointing part to me last week was the offense took a step back with the talent that they have there, the athleticism that they have there. Expect them to come out really trying with an edge this week almost, trying to make a statement and show that this team can bounce back, get that offensive momentum to pair with what is a fundamentally sound defense. Expect Montevallo to win this game and win this game going away. Vincent's 4-0 start came to a halt last week as they hit the road on Thursday night. They fall to BB Comer in a top 6 battle there between those two teams, 36-0. And Andrew, I think the disappointing part there was that the offense really just couldn't get anything going. Defense struggled a little bit as well. I think they're going to be fine defensively as they move forward, as long as they can regain that composure and that confidence. And this is a game that could really do that for them. This is taking on Childersburg this week. This is a challenging matchup, a much improved Childersburg team from what we saw last year. Last year they started 1-4. This year playing a little bit better on both sides of the ball, so a little bit more challenging of a matchup for the Yellow Jackets this season. Are they going to be able to bounce back, Andrew, pick up a win, get that confidence that they need to really, I think they still have the best chance to get the 2 seed out of this region, Vincent does. Are they able to bounce back and get that confidence to be able to fight toward that goal here the rest of the way?
I'm leaning towards yes. I really do think that this Vincent team is going to be able to respond. You really saw them just have difficulties against, obviously, the unquestioned number one team in the state. We really saw that more than anything last week, and I think that it's last week's game said more about BB Comer than it says about Vincent. Obviously, but Vincent was still able to get some stuff going right for them as well. Raquelis Robertson got over 100 yards rushing once again. And I think this is really going to be a team that kind of settles in here and bounces back in a pretty big way against a rival that they know that they have to show up for. Coach Weatherford has made this team know absolutely clearly that they have to show up for this game, that they have to bring a better effort, and that they need to bounce back here because last year's loss against Comer did not define this team. They went on to win out the regular season and get a first-round win. I think that could be easily the case again this year as well. Get that 2 seed in the region and just really propel themselves from that loss, make themselves into a better team that has a chance to go forward in the state playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. I think like you said, I think it's Comer that is really good this year. I think they've got a really strong chance to win the 2A state championship this year. Last year went to the state championship game and lost. This year, I think just as good or better than they were a season ago. So I agree with you. I think it says a little bit more about where they are than where Vincent is. I do think this is going to be a tougher game than last year against Childersburg, but I do think Vincent's going to be able to bounce back. This is a Childersburg team that's scoring just 29.2 points per game, pretty average there, but they're giving up 30.8 points per game. The defense really struggling to this point in the season, going up against the Vincent offense that while they were shut out last week, expect Robertson and those guys to bounce back offensively, really try to get some momentum and confidence moving forward into the last stretch of region play. I think you're going to see the offense come out, have some success in this game, and I think the defense also going to bounce back from what we saw last week. I think it goes hand in hand. Offense is able to have success. Defense is going to have success. I think we see Vincent bounce back, get that confidence that they need to fight toward the 2 seed in this region. Now we jump down to the AISA and the ACSC, and we've got 3 matchups taking place yet again. These some busy teams this year as Cornerstone, Coosa Valley, and Evangel all going to be in action again this week. And Andrew, you look at those 3 teams, 2 of them, still 2 of the 4 out of the county that we have undefeated at this point in the season. Cornerstone continuing to play well. Evangel sitting undefeated, continuing to look like the best 8-man team in the country. All 3 of these teams looking for some big wins this week. Cornerstone and Evangel looking to stay unbeaten. What are your expectations going into these 3 matchups? Cornerstone, Southern Prep, Coosa Valley, Evangel, Montgomery, and Evangel at Ezekiel in a rivalry showdown there.
Yeah, and let's start with Evangel Ezekiel, because obviously Evangel establishing last week that they're the national frontrunner for the 8-man title, full stop, beating a very good number 3 ranked Lighthouse team. everybody within that building, the fans, players, coaches, they all knew how big that game was to win, and they did so pretty convincingly. So they have to feel good about themselves, but obviously they can't live in that win too much because Ezekiel, it's their biggest rival. Everybody knows what that game also means to them as well. So I think that Evangel is going to come out, be able to make another statement here and just continue moving along in that pursuit of the national title. So I have Evangel in the win there. And Cornerstone, they're going to be looking to bounce back a little bit. Obviously, they had a great performance against Springwood, and they were still able to get the win against North River, but Coach Lee is wanting a little bit more out of his team from what they were able to show last week against North River, and the Southern Prep team really presents a great chance for them to do so. Obviously, coming off of back-to-back great performances from Zeke Adams, but this team is going to continue to click along, get themselves better in preparation for the playoffs because they know what they need to get better at, and they know that they aren't quite there yet in terms of where they need to be to get that state title. So I expect Cornerstone to come out motivated and ready to move along to get this win as well. And as for Coosa Valley, Evangel, Montgomery, Coosa Valley really starting to click at a good time in their schedule as well. Got over 100 yards rushing as a team last week, starting to progress well on defense with 2 tacklers, over 7 tackles, and a turnover as well, fumble recovery as well. So you really start seeing a Coosa Valley team that, while the score lines haven't exactly showed it, this is a team that's really starting to get better, and Evangel Montgomery presents arguably their best chance to win this year. This is an 8-man team that's playing an 11-man game this week. Can really kind of throw off their game. Coosa Valley can this week as well as the game where they won last year as well. So you have to really like Coosa Valley's chances here. This is gonna be a tight fought game though. Evangel Montgomery, pretty solid team as well, even though they are a step below where they were last year. I'm going bold here. I'm picking a Coosa Valley win, honestly. I think that they potentially have a chance to get a really good win here and propel that for the next part of their schedule.
Well, that would be a big win. It'd be a good win for them, and they need it. And I wouldn't be surprised if it happens either. I'm going to start with Cornerstone real quick, though. You look at them taking on Southern Prep. Cornerstone 5-0 overall now, following their 46-12 win against North River. They've scored 40 or more in every game and 12 or less in all but one game so far this season, given up wise. So this is a team that's playing well on both sides of the football. I think Cornerstone going to have success again this week against Southern Prep. As far as Evangel at Ezekiel, 7-0 Evangel, coming in off that 40-14 win over what's considered one of the top teams in 8-man play. But the defense continues to be unbelievable. They're giving up 20 or less in every game so far this season, while the offense also having success. Not as strong of an Ezekiel team as we've seen in the past. I think Evangel's going to roll in that rivalry matchup, though we've seen that one be strange the last couple of years where I feel Evangel's the better team and it's a closer game than we expect, or they lose. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. But you look at that game, Coosa Valley, Evangel, Montgomery, and both of these teams have had their share of struggles. Ultimately, though, I've just got to see Coosa Valley prove it at this point in the year. I like the bold prediction, and it could very well happen, but we've got to see it to believe it, and I think that's the big key when you look at that matchup. So going to be a fun one, though, a good chance for Coosa Valley to get things right and really fight down the stretch. Still a team that could make the playoffs, so if they can get some momentum in a game like this, that could be big the rest of the way. So going to be a big night for all three of those teams as they look to get some confidence. The Rebels do, and then Cornerstone and Evangel look to remain as two of the unbeaten teams here in Shelby County. But now it's time to hand out some stars as we get to our SCR Stars of the Week segment. Not as busy of a week this week when it comes to the standout players, but still a few names to mention, a few units to mention, which I always like giving those out because it just shows that team camaraderie. And that's kind of what we're going to get from last week as some units stepped up in big-time play. But, Andrew, I'm going to let you start with your 2 stars, the main 2 stars who are really – 2 of the biggest ones of the week when you look at one of them being a unit, one of them being a player, and just walk me through the success that they had in big region games last week.
Definitely, and the first star should be pretty obvious to anybody who followed along. It's Jordan Washington, Helena's running back.
Star of the week overall.
Yes, star of the week overall, for potentially even for the season as well. Just one of the strongest performances we've seen so far in one of the biggest matchups of the season as well. We knew Washington was going to come in and have a big game. I don't think many of us expected 305 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns, though. Just absolutely had his way with the Pelham defense and really established himself as the star back within the county. We all knew how good he was. We knew the impacts that he can have on the game, but for him to go out and make a statement like this, it says a lot about him, and people should be looking out for what he's going to do in the future as well. So Jordan Washington, first star of the week, and then the second star of the week will go to the Thompson defense as well, just because of what they were able to do to help power their team to win against Chelsea. 2 pick sixes defensively while giving up a shutout. They're down to 7.5 points per game and an average on defense. Absolutely incredible for where they are right now as a team, and nobody scored more than 14 as well. Not allowing more than 2 touchdowns against some pretty solid opposition as well so far. They're going to have some tough tests going forward as well. Hewitt-Trussville coming up in a couple of weeks, and obviously this Clay-Chalkville team that's going to take them on this week as well. So I think that Thompson's defense is really starting to click at a very crucial time for them, and that's why they're getting our star of the week.
Yeah, that defense has been fun to watch, and like you said, I mean, just playing tremendously, not giving up 14 or more to anybody so far this season, and giving up 7.5 points per game. Going to be fun as they take on a Clay-Chalkville team giving up 4.8 points per game in a slugfest out here Thursday night. My 2 stars going to be similar. Will Odell is going to be my single player who stepped up in a big way, almost led Oak Mountain to a bounce-back, come-from-behind win against Tuscaloosa County. 12 of 24, 158 yards, 2 touchdowns passing, ran for an additional 178 yards on 20 carries. So just an all-around solid night. Going to need that from him against a very good Briarwood defense this week. And then defensively as a unit, the Helena defense, dominant effort against Pelham. Clayton Maine still had a pretty successful night, but they kept them out of the end zone for the most part, gave up just 14 points to a pretty dynamic offense in Pelham. And it's a defense that's yet to give up more than 17 in a game this season, giving up an average of 12.4. This defense is legit, and it's going to be something that if Helena does go on to make not only a region championship run, but a playoff run, the defense will be a big, big reason why. As far as our honorable mentions this week, 3 players, Sawyer Smith of Oak Mountain, Clayton Maines of Pelham, and Zeke Adams of Cornerstone. Adams, 296 yards, 4 touchdowns on 13 carries there for the Chargers in another win. Clayton Maines balanced again, as always, 116 passing yards, 95 rushing yards, 2 total touchdowns against a very, very good and physical defense that we just talked about in Helena. And then Sawyer Smith at Oak Mountain, 5 receptions, 132 yards, a guy that they really need to step up moving forward if this team wants to be balanced and dynamic the rest of the way. So an Oak Mountain offense that if they can have that balance this week, they may be able to walk away with a win against Briarwood. We're going to need to see that. But overall, a little bit more of a quiet week, but still a good week for those athletes, those defensive units. We'll see if that carries into a non-region week. I expect some big performances this week as we get ready to jump back into region play next week. Andrew, another show in the books, and this is one of those weeks where it really doesn't matter. It does not count toward much other than confidence and momentum. What are you looking forward to the most this week? I'm going to put you on the spot, say something outside of this matchup that we're going to see on Thursday night between Thompson and Clay-Chalkville. Obviously, that one's going to be awesome. The defense is nationally televised. It's going to be a show, but some other big ones that are going to be important for what teams need to do the rest of the way as well.
Definitely, and I think the one thing that we're going to see this week is we're going to see Briarwood's defense and offense continue to come into their own as well. We see, I think Briarwood's big second half against Pelham is going to be that spark that they need to just keep progressing as a unit, and then Briarwood's offense behind Josh Thompson, Sawyer Clitt, Caleb Keller, Cooper Higgins, the list goes on. They've got a lot of weapons, and they've now started to settle in. We knew that this team was going to be reloading this year, and they had a lot of potential. But the fact that they're coming together this quickly says a lot about the job that Coach Forrester and the rest of the coaching staff has done with this team. I'm excited to see how they fare against Oak Mountain in a big rivalry matchup.
Yeah, I mean, 2 teams separated by just a couple miles there, 119, 280 area. That excuse me, that one's going to be an incredible showdown between those 2 teams. I'm looking forward to the opposite of what you just talked about a minute ago, Briarwood Pelham. I'm looking forward to see how Pelham responds as well. Chelsea, obviously, in the same game, coming off 45-0 shutout to Thompson, needs to respond. But Pelham, we had high expectations for to compete for a region championship. If they lose a 3rd straight game going into that last stretch of region play, they're going to be reeling and searching for some confidence. So I think that's going to be a very key football game for them. Chelsea's already been improved at the 7A classification this year, likely going back down to 6A next year. These two teams could be crossing paths in the same region next year. So with that in the future, likely, you know that both of those teams are going to want that one this season to gain some confidence. So we'll see how that one unfolds. We'll see how the game you're looking forward to unfolds. And then, of course, right here, Thursday night, game of the week, Thompson and Clay-Chalkville, a big defensive battle. We'll see how that one unfolds as well. So going to be an exciting non-region week of high school football right here in Shelby County. We'll see you all Thursday night from here at Warrior Stadium, and then again on Friday night for a busy, fun, exciting week of high school football.